What's up?
What's goody? Happy Wednesday, everyone.
Yeah. We're 3 minutes late, so you guys should already been ready to join by now.
Sorry, my bad. They updated the streaming system, and I was truthfully, I'm just waking up for a nap. So your girl was probably like in a daze of.
Really?
Yeah, girl, I had a headache earlier. I was like, I need to lay down.
Oh man. You know, first week or second-ish week of school, kids already sniveling. I'm like, come on,
Really?
we ain't got time for people to be sick this early in the
Right.
school year.
But I don't know if it's been like that out there, but the weather has been just so crazy in the sense of
Back
like,
and forth.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it was like yesterday. Was it yesterday? I don't. Yeah, I was outside, so damn shame. I'm like, was I outside? But like the morning, it started in like the low 50s, and so of course I had a sweater with me, and then because I went into the office, and then I went out for lunch, and that joint said 82, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, it's been like milder temperatures, but happening here too. Like kind of cold in the morning,
yeah,
frost-ish on your window, and then in the afternoon it's been hot. So yeah, that's why everybody's all over the place.
no doubt. I'm like, oh no.
Welcome people in the room.
Let us
Get
know
Real
you're
Sisters
here.
podcast. Definitely let us know you're here, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Come
Yes.
on in the room.
Yeah. While we let people linger on in, those that don't know, Shanice did a juicing cleanse. Her and her husband. What was that, last week or the week before?
Yeah, at this point it was the week before. Yeah.
Okay.
We did a 2-day juice cleanse. Mm-hmm.
So it inspired me to go ahead and just get a juicer. So that just came in the mail. I told myself this week was going to be the week, but it was a little delayed of getting here. So I said, it's okay. I'm just going to keep eating crap until, what up, Alan?
Hi, Alan. I miss you so much.
We, as Town Shanice, we had a straight ball.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Oh man, we showed out in DC. What? They said, wait a minute, who are these folks? Thailand.
I wish I
I
could.
know.
You're
Um,
talking about the
the
juicing. Did it
juicing.
come with like
Yes.
a booklet with recipes and stuff, or?
Yep. So little healthy recipes. I'll send you.
Oh yeah, send me that. 'Cause I think
Yeah.
I have a different book too, so I can share that.
Okay. Word. Yes. Thailand. And they break it down of. I know you were saying like Teddy was interested in maybe more fruit based, and that's like their first. They have. It looks like they have 6 choices there, and maybe 10 with that includes vegetables. So I was like, let me try this first. So officially next week I'll get into it. Just start off the week really good, and do that.
Yes. So, what's your perspective on that juice cleanse?
My perspective. One, I think everyone should do a juice cleanse at least once a year, if not more. Um, all the toxins we put in our body, and I'm not just speaking on alcohol. Some people don't drink. A lot of the food that we eat is not well.
Yeah.
So I forget who. Oh, we were talking about Celsius, and it's this girl, because I love Celsius, and someone was like, "Oh, Jazz, like, don't you know that's bad for you?" And I literally looked back and I chuckled, and I'm like, "Everything is bad for you."
Is it really bad for you?
Yes
Or
and
like
no.
the process, like obviously the processed,
Yeah,
anything processed isn't great for you, but it didn't
right.
seem
I think
super
just
unhealthy.
because people's mind goes, it's an energy drink, so like there, of course, that side of it, but anyways, I chuckled on it and I was like, yeah, like everything's bad for you. And just another reason, in actually on when we were talking about it, I was like, about to do a cleanse. And she was like, oh, that's really good. I think that you can also overdo the cleanse. So to be wary of that piece. Now, I'm someone that probably will overdo it. So even though I'm telling you don't overdo it, and why I say that is because I'm actually doing a lot better with getting my 3 meals in, but they're not the best 3 meals. And so I kind of want to, out the gate, I do want to force it. I want to do, the two, again, you did the 2-day juice cleanse. My thoughts is like, I'll do a few weeks of juicing in the morning, and then do it like mixing in a protein shake and only having one real meal of the day.
Oh, okay.
Like dinner, because that's my favorite to sit down and
Definitely be careful with that.
Yeah. But your girl gotta, because we're officially over with summer, gotta get it right. We gotta get it right.
Yeah. Miss out of control body over there, but whatever. No, so all different perspectives. So yeah, guys, we are going to definitely be talking more about the last episode of the topic of the month, different perspectives. I mean, you can have perspectives on literally anything, like my perspective on the way Jasmine looks and how, her image is like, hey, she's goals for me. But to her perspective is I could work on more. But yeah, I like the juicing. I think I'm gonna do it every like maybe few months or so.
Mhm.
But there's definitely things that I would recommend you just like researching if you are planning on doing that, because there's different ways to like prep your body before doing the cleanse and then also after to reintroduce your system to food and stuff, even if it's just the 2 days. So
Right. Read up on it. Ask your doctor.
Yeah. We all run to our doctor every time we're trying to. But
every single thing. Okay, I'm a certified PhD Google-ish doctor. So if you need it, I can help you. I'm gonna have you stressed, but you'll get some answers.
Hey girl, you're juicing too. I am so jealous that you're on Cape and you can take advantage of Rai's juices. I see his posts and I just want every single one that he makes.
Shoot, tell Rai get over the bridge.
Supposedly he said in one of the comments he got me, but I haven't seen no juices come this way.
Ooh, tag his behind. Anyone watching the tag Rai in this. Okay, special delivery.
Right.
What the heck going on? I forgot he actually does them. That's pretty cool.
It looks like they're booming right now.
Yeah. That's dope. Cool. So anyone that is here now, jumping on, you might have seen the What's the Word activity. Shanice and I are going to keep it super real with you. Although I initiated the activity, sadly, my schedule got a little banged up. AKA, I did not have the capacity to do the activity. Shanice. So if you're anyone that did have an opportunity to get super creative, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you jump on the live with us and talk it through. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't fret. Go right on over to YouTube or stay right here on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, and go click the link that we talk about it. So, and it doesn't have to be this month. Like if you jot it down and you want to get to it next month or next week, whatever the case may be, feel free. You don't have to follow, our month topics and activities, but try to, at some point, throw it in there.
Yeah. And you can always comment, on those videos to let us know if you happen to be catching up on anything, how it went for you. We respond to those comments. We are here. I know Jasmine is also extended and I can be involved in that too. Different ways that we can interact with you outside of our monthly topics and these lives. Because although we're not licensed professionals, we got a lot of good things up in our little noggins here, a lot of experience within our lives that may be really relatable to you. So we're definitely going to still, although we didn't follow through with the activity, talk a little bit more about perspective, get your perspective on how you can view different things in different capacities depending on where you actually come from, your upbringing, what your environment was like and is like now, because perspectives can change. And I can also hit up the person that we alluded to that actually brought this to us.
Yeah.
She might not be ready just yet, so we'll let you know.
No doubt. So with talking about perspective, let's throw it, again, anybody that's in the chat, throw out a topic that we want to kind of talk perspective, like what our perspective is versus your perspective. I'd also like to say, like, I think Shanice and I have mentioned on Countless, like our relationship is a lot different, and we can acknowledge that from other siblings, sisters, or just in life friendships or relationships rather. Why I'm saying that is that I think sometimes if you have opposing perspectives and opinions, you clash, right? Or you get really heated and aggravated. That means you got to work on your communication. No, I'm just kidding. But it is like you should work through your communication skills, because that's not what it is, right? Like you may, again, have a different experience, a different point of view on something. And because I haven't gone through it, I don't see it that way. And it doesn't mean I am disregarding what you're saying, but I might challenge. And I was just having this conversation at work because I come across very often of being combative. And for years, truthfully, like I took that, like I would be like, dang, I gotta scale down a little bit. Like I gotta reel it back in. I don't want higher ups to look at me like that. And now I'm like, please, that means you need to work through your own leadership and management, because again, granted, I know sometimes I do need to chill out, but at the root of it, if I'm in this industry, if I am a leader, whether I was a leader or not, if I'm asking questions, there's a couple of reasons why I'm going to ask it, right? Yes, maybe geez, you're just challenging it. But I also don't understand, right? And I don't understand because I don't do what you do. I haven't had your experience, and I just need you to dumb it down for me, right? I like to learn. I want to understand different perspectives. My mind is open to seeing them. But if I'm not told about them, or you're just assuming I should know, that's when we're going to have a little problem.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. I think I still kind of struggle with that, at least like professionally. I wouldn't necessarily say it comes up too bad. What I feel like I'm lucky professionally is everyone that I work with is very open to hearing out other people's perspectives and being like, receptive to, and be like, oh, like I either didn't see it that way, or it doesn't come off like it's an argument. The harder time that I have with this is actually with Tidy. Like, because a lot of times, especially if we happen to be starting a conversation, like say through text, where it gives a lot of like gray area to try to read between the lines or misinterpret what people are saying, missing punctuation, because that can also affect how people are perceiving certain things. I still find that we sometimes struggle with, if we happen to have a difference in opinion, that it does seem like we're just butting heads instead of, so my perspective on the situation is that Tidy doesn't seem to be receptive to when I have a difference in opinion, and he thinks I'm trying to be argumentative when I'm really just trying to be like, hey, no, this is just how I think about it, or this is how I feel about it, based on my own experiences, based on what I see, the people that I'm around, or what my ideal path to take care of this particular circumstance. It's happened in multiple things, like talking about our kids sometimes, like how we would handle different situations, finances. That's a big topic that, we're working still through. But I'm still trying to master the game as far as like how can I come off in a way where it doesn't seem like I'm trying to jump on you, even if I happen to have a different perspective.
No,
like we are definitely opposites. We do have some similarities, but for the most part, we're just opposite people. Opposites attract. That whole thing is a real fact.
That is your reality.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think about things like that, like relationship wise? Have you guys ever run into where it's difficult for you to express your other side of things? And what do you do to kind of get around that, or if you found any way that seems to work better? Hey, Nazare.
What up, girl? Welcome.
So she said, oh, obviously you guys can see the chat, but do you ever think coming into it in that energy may give you the result you're hoping doesn't happen?
We talked about that.
Is that, yeah.
We did on our live a little bit.
Like how the outcomes, like depending on how you come into it, reflects your outcomes. Is that pretty much what you're asking?
That's how I'm reading it, Nazare. So if you want to clarify, example, if you go into the situation really positive, thinking that things are going to be gravy, okay, like you're worried about it happening too much, you're trying to prevent it, but it's inevitable happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we did kind of touch on that in our original episode. I definitely think that because I play out the story, especially if it's something that like my emotions are tied to. I'm gonna reference Tidy a lot because besides Jasmine, he's my other best friend, and we talk all day.
He too.
So
no, just kidding.
Yeah, we won't tell him that. But so many times I'm like, okay, this is how I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna come, with as much empathy as possible. I'm gonna word it. I'm trying to think of like a real example where this happened and then it went left, and I was like, what in the world? Like that is not what I wanted to happen. So finances, things I am personally right now really trying to get a hold of. And how he's going to respond to, because especially if you know the person, you might already know they're going to come with some toot or something. But see if this example kind of like lines up, but I think I also can think of an example where that's too. But so talking about finances, I'm really working on aligning my budget with some goals that I have. And we don't necessarily have regular conversations about it. So when I started bringing it up, I was trying to softly be like, okay, hey, like, can we have a conversation about essentially our responsibilities in the household, who's paying for what? I'm not necessarily trying to control where his money's going, but the way I ended up saying it, and I, might not be remembering word for word, but I basically said I would love to have like a finance conversation because I think it's important for us to figure out exactly where our money is going, so it's not unbalanced. Considering, a little bit of background, he makes more than me. But there was a period of time where I felt I was taking care of most of the household expenses, even though my income shouldn't necessarily have been fully responsible for it, in my opinion. So my perspective was like, hey, let's have this conversation because I want to balance it. Not that it would necessarily be 50-50, but in a way that we both can feel good and have wiggle room to be able to start focusing on our future goals. Original time I brought that up, he took it as I was going tick for tack. Like, I do this, without counting what he also does. And that was not my intention at all. It was just like let's just put this on paper so it can hopefully make more sense, especially because I know he's a visual learner, more so just like talking it out. So that actually ended up turning into an argument. It like derailed into like him feeling like I wasn't appreciating what he actually does and contributes to, because he usually handles like the big ticket items for real, like our cars, oil in the house. Like those are just a couple examples, but like anything last minute, he's on it, he does it, and you know. But follow-up conversation we had after like everything calmed down, and I brought the paper to be able to visually show him, like, and I started the conversation. I was like, please let me know if anything I'm saying is sounding as if I'm trying to talk down to you or trying to control every piece of this. I just want us to have a better alignment, because we do have some goals, but we just don't have timelines, and we can't even work through timelines if we don't have things on paper to figure out where our stuff is going. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like my experience with, I thought the conversation was going to go great and we were going to move on to be able to start working on our goal setting. But he took it a totally different way, and thinking that I was trying to be degrading in a sense.
To furthermore to what I think she's saying is that, so prior to your original conversation, you were worried that he was going to take this very defensive and not be receptive, right? So you were so worried about it that it ended up happening too. So in your own kind of way, right? Like you had full intentions, right? Like you mapped it out in your head. There was other conversations, blah, 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 blah. You went in with good heart, good intentions. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, how did it translate to this? It happened. And then you guys reevaluated on both sides and had, down the road, had another conversation to kind of circle back. And that conversation was way more successful.
Exactly. Because initially, like once he already had that feeling and it went the way I did not want it to go, there wasn't really any coming back from it. No matter how I tried to now back up and say the things that might have made it an easier transition into the conversation, he was over it at that point and couldn't get past how he was feeling in the moment. And yeah, so.
And Nazare, I 1,000% agree here. Like in summary, basically, is like to stop in the moment and let the other person know, like, this is not an attack. It's coming from a loving space. And as she's stating, to bring it back to, I am feeling this way about it, and the vulnerability, right? And that's a huge topic of vulnerability as women. I think without a bat in our eye, like we can be very vulnerable, and on the other side, it is a lot harder for them. But sometimes it doesn't even necessarily need to be women and men. Being vulnerable for a lot of people is tricky, depending on who they're speaking with. So,
I agree with that a lot too. And people don't always have someone to like check, like I want to say check them, but to be able to open the conversation, be like, correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I'm feeling. But, and give that person the opportunity to then say what they feel or what their personal perspective is on the situation. And this could hold true also not for just romantic relationships. I think it's even more emotionally tied for sure when that's like your life partner. But, Nazare, you said you kind of bump into this at work too. Like this could be at a professional level. Jasmine, I don't know if you've run into it professionally too, or have thoughts about that situation in a professional setting.
Yeah, this happens every week. It literally does. And it was happening originally with my direct. She's no longer my direct, where I felt like we were both, very vulnerable kind of people. We were building a real strong relationship, but our ideas and thoughts were definitely opposite. Always opposite, right? She looked at it as more of a business standpoint, which I get. and I will always come in and look at it from a people standpoint. Right. I have a very strong, and very similar to what Nazare is saying here, is like, not that my mind is made up, but I firmly believe that you have to focus on your people first. And if you're not, who cares about the business side of things? Like, I think and I shouldn't say who cares, there needs to be a balance. But if we're really scaling it, I think it needs to be 80-20 all the time. And again, that my mind is made up in that. And my old direct, hers was the opposite. So I would come to her, and again, I talked to you about it, of like, how should I approach this? I talked to my HR team, because I just never felt like I was being heard. I'm like, I'm expressing, I'm showing my vulnerability. And as Nazare, you're saying here, sometimes people aren't used to that, right? Coming in like with a vulnerable energy, they're like, what is this? And, very standoffish. So, I don't want to say, right, like, because this is keeping it real, getting real here, has it changed with that dynamic? No. It's probably worse now. No, just kidding. It's not worse because she's not my direct anymore. And now I have someone in between that I can kind of bounce these ideas off of and communicate. Work still needs to be done. I can't just put it by the wayside because she still is a higher up. But control what I can control, right? The small things, and working my way up. So, yeah, but I'd love to hear from our special guest, right? Maybe on this topic specifically of perspectives and coming in with that vulnerability. But without further ado, welcome our girl. Let's get her on the screen.
Hey, y'all.
What up, Bree?
What's good, guys? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Girl.
Good, very good.
I'm loving these colors on the, reflecting off you, that green.
Yeah, that's a very old paint color. Looks like I'm on a green screen right now, but yeah.
Right.
I'm acting today,
Like
so
that,
yeah.
How was your day?
So far so good. It was great. Pretty peaceful day at work. Nothing too serious, so that was easy. Yeah, not too much going on, just work and taking care of the bubs, hanging out with him today because he didn't go to daycare. So good times at the bagel shop today.
He's getting huge.
I know. He's that tall. He's already like past my waist. Like his head is starting. I'm like, yo, you need to stop.
Hey,
He's about to be taller than us
head.
next week.
I know, right?
I know. Serious. Oh man. Well, Bree, seriously, thank you. This topic was gold. Truthfully, we can always count on Bree, whether these kind of every setting, to definitely be a conversation starter, to keep it flowing, all that. And then when you hit us with this one, we were like, oh yeah, like no doubt, like cross off anything else we were thinking and let's jump right to it. So, kind of want to open the floor of like where this in your like space and where you are currently, why this topic is important to you, and then throw out any thoughts or questions that we as a group, as everyone can dive into.
Say, just chime in when you want. Don't let me drag the conversation. If you see I'm getting off topic, be like, yeah, girl, but I was saying. But the reason why I was like, oh, you know what, perspective could be like a really good topic, because I'm sure a lot of people have issues with perspective, whether it's how they see themselves, how they believe their friends and family to see them, how the general public might see them or their situations or the relationships. So basically for me, it was like how much of a difference it can make to like have just a different mindset or a different mentality, just a different attitude about what you're approaching. And it could be as simple as something you have to handle at work to, am I still going to keep talking to this person, or are we going to cut ties today and this is just going to be over with and we will never speak again? That energy that you have is a lot. And when you allow outer perspective to affect what like choice or how you feel about something, that's when you can kind of create this snowball effect of like ignoring the self, like of knowing yourself, knowing what you believe to be right, everything else, because you're so busy trying to now like satisfy the perspective that everybody else has on you.
Mhm.
But this is where that conversation in my own head came from. And I was like, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that can stem from that, from how people might view themselves or their lives, where they thought they were going to be, where they want to be, their goals and ambitions. Like, yeah, perspective ties into a lot. So I figured this conversation go on forever, so let's talk about it.
Seriously, like even just in our episode, we were like, dang, like this could just go so many different avenues.
Yeah.
I really loved you just bringing up the fact of like people's perspective about themselves and how that can tie into people's outcomes, especially if maybe you're not living up to whatever standards you had set for yourself, and then
Right.
life happens, so you're in a total different path. I know personally, me and you probably can really relate as far as, you know,
Yeah.
becoming moms and, you know, things
I
happening.
mean that it can, and yeah, it can ensue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you start taking a lot of things in account. But what is important is not to be like, oh, nobody else matters, but to really accept that your life is your own is not that easy. Like, it's easy to say, but I know that's not easy for anyone really. But
Right.
I think that if you focus on your own perspective and you can be in a mirror by yourself and you can like the conversations that you're having with yourself and you're not talking badly to yourself, like you can really change the way your day can go, your life can go, your path goes. Like when you
You know it.
switch the narrative. My life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then it's probably it's gonna be a little rough for you if your life just sucks all the time. But if you're like, you find things to be grateful for, you take advantage of opportunities instead of letting them pass. Like there's little things that you can do that create the same type of snowball or ripple effect to create and generate happiness, a better life, just more positivity, better energy,
Yep.
attracts better people. So now you have better conversations coming in. Like, yeah, perspective is everything.
Yeah. Do you think taking ownership?
me.
Oh, sorry. You can go, Jasmine.
Yeah, that was rude. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just like,
Excuse me.
Back up. Wait. Excuse me.
I'm excited.
But no,
Right.
the perspective and you know, speaking in the mirror, right? Our last activity at the Queen event.
Yeah, exactly.
Was huge.
That was tight.
And I think even for like people watching, or just like, because I've heard it, I've seen it, I've experienced it, where people are like, why are you talking like that? Like, you don't do that consistently. And I said, well, wait a minute. I have to start somewhere.
Right. Even if I wasn't doing it every day, like it's got to be.
Exactly. And I think it's 100% accurate. If you are not like gassing yourself up, boosting yourself up, it's going to translate out. Right. Perfect example, at least for me, maybe 2 weeks ago or something, I was really in this funk of like, oh, I can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And I swear I was probably saying that every single day. And so every single day
something
it seemed
else.
like things
Yeah.
And then again, revisiting my mirror talks, my conversations with myself, it was just that small shift of like waking up in the morning and being like, literally opening my eyes and being like, it's going to be a good day. And I have a little song that I sing in the morning, like, it's going to be a great day today. It's going to be a great day today. And I'll start the morning like that. Literally that shift. It's not me necessarily in the morning, but I'm waking up. I'm like, where? I'm about to get in the shower. Cool. Jumping in the shower. Man, that was a great shower.
Right. Just
what changed today from yesterday? Simply waking up and singing a damn song. So yeah, the positive self-talk is gold.
Yep. I was just going to mention, Keandra, right on pot. You have to be intentional, super intentional with that, because whether you're feeling it or not, you know, I brought it up in the podcast episode, we can rewire our brains to be like, oh, actually, this is what it is.
100%.
It wasn't really, but I kept telling my brain it was.
That's the other thing too. See, you triggered it. So that going off of that, like how easy it is for you to create an idea in your head and run with that instead of slowing down enough to see like what's really happening. So now it becomes like a much more intense situation, whether it's like just more stressful or just more emotional overall, because you didn't take the time
That's
to like
crazy.
see it from the right point of view.
God.
That is crazy.
Come and say hi.
That
so
show
we can
is
go,
crazy.
please. Say hi.
Hey,
It's Shanisa Jasmine.
that was crazy.
All right. Yeah.
Tell
my
us,
kids.
talk
Go
to us
ahead.
about that perspective.
Yeah. Point of view, right?
He's a line.
No, you cannot. Go back downstairs, please.
Look at cookie.
Anywho, like I was saying, perspective, you know, you got to watch out. Things change all the time, but having the right, like, yeah, so you can get it wrong sometimes. Going, like, overthinking too. So, like, you can't always rely on what you're feeling. It's what you can, like, I don't know. It's what you can process. It's like,
Dad said I can have melatonin.
will you beat it? I see I'm going to continuously be interrupted. So, I'm sorry for losing my train of thought, but
We rail up in here. Just don't worry about
yeah,
it.
it's all right. Yeah, and what I also want to mention is that I really appreciate the different types of things that we've done throughout the Queens events, of being able to like get the chance to see yourself.
Thank you for the
or even getting to actually hear something positive about yourself from someone who like doesn't even really know you. There's women that I sat with in some of the projects that we were doing, the workshops that we pretty much were doing, and it was like it was amazing, honestly. And like for someone to have such an easily positive perspective of me, and I can lose sight of that for myself a lot. It just like, yeah, it helps bring it back to the perspective and knowing to have that positive idea of yourself. And that really does go a long way. It's never just going to be like a cakewalk, but it helps when you can always bring yourself back to the more positive side of things. Straight up.
Yeah. I think it's wild that, you know, I felt the same way, especially during the last Queen event, that I was like, this stranger that I just met like 20 minutes ago was able to like pull up a mirror, like put a mirror up and tell me things that I, you know, have heard before or I kind of know about myself, but I don't always tell myself that. I don't always live in that type of mentality. So it really like just helps you refocus. So I think another part of perspective is, you know, outside of those strangers being able to also see you, because you definitely, you know, your light is going to shine whether you
believe in it or
are
not.
actively flashing it or not. So whatever type of light you're holding is what people are going to see. But to also have people in your corner that can help flip that mirror up too and be like, wait a second, girl, like, and I wrote that about our dynamic too. Like, there'll be certain times where like, why are you talking like that? Like,
yeah,
why
that's
are
crazy.
you even
I don't even know why
thinking
you said that. Like,
exactly.
you should really stop. That's a bit much. Like, yeah. Bring it back. You know, you the ish girl. Don't be trying to do nobody like that.
Right.
Yeah, it is like that. You need people in your corner like that. And I'm glad that throughout this time, I've been able to stay connected to the right people. Like, because, yeah, this life shit ain't easy.
Yeah, it's not.
What do you guys think about, as far as your self perspective goes, the part of you that technically needs to take ownership for anything that has negatively impacted you? Like, for example, you know, throughout my experience, especially before getting with Tidy and us getting married, having another kid together, it was me and Layla. And there was a part of me in the beginning that was just playing the blame game on everything else, everything external for the position I was in. I was struggling financially, emotionally, mentally, like just everything was jacked up. But I had to get to a point where I was like, all right, Shanice, what part did I take in it? And based on my own decisions, that is why I'm in this mentality. So now that I took that ownership, I was able to start digging myself out of those bad thoughts. What are your guys' perspective about taking ownership? And, you know,
that's funny because I was just having a similar conversation earlier today. And like, yeah, accountability is the first step into becoming whatever it is you want to be next. Like, there's so many things that I could have blamed the situation or blamed other people, and for certain shit I definitely did. But I eventually like really evaluated everything and gave myself the chance to like really see things as if I had like the right to take responsibility for everything and make it better, see it, accept it, and then like, yeah, you can't really move on from something until you accept it. Like, but if you're blaming everybody else, like you can keep that game going forever. So the minute I took accountability, I saw improvement in my self-work of being able to communicate better, make better personal choices, start really like holding my boundaries, stuff like that, from taking accountability for my life, my stuff.
Yeah. I know we touched on it in our just pre-recorded episode this month. You know, for me, it was, and still a serious work in progress, is the independence piece for me. I had to take accountability that although I view independence as a positive trait, it also, because I was so used to or had this independence mentality for so basically my whole life, and still do, I was in constant situations or scenarios and whatever because I was so one-sided. I was in my mind of like, I have to carry out this independence because this is what I'm used to. This is
what I'm gonna do. So
right. And I was like, and it wasn't, because it's never been, I'm going to prove this to XYZ. I've never been that kind of person. I'm proving it to myself, but I'm just overpowering all of that where I need to scale it down. And saying all that is that my being so strong on my independence, I was jamming myself up for relationships, right? Of like, it's coming across, right? I'm thinking it's super positive, like
super good,
girls independent, like do.
And then right. Slow down, girl. Hold on.
Right. They're like, you can spell out of that. But I wasn't receptive or open to my man. Really, it's just like, you know, it's like, no, I've handled this. And then to them, it's like, you know, then that plays on their ego, their pride. And it's like, well, there's an unbalance there. So the accountability piece was being able for me to acknowledge like, okay,
okay,
I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be able to immediately wash away every single thing that I've been used to doing, but I will try to scale, right? Like
meet you halfway. Like, yeah.
Right. I was like, let me try to think of an example. Well, I'm working on it. I'll have to circle back on that piece. But for me, that was that has been one of the biggest things that I've tried to take more to with of balancing the level.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Bree, how have you dealt with when people have a different perspective than you, and you
can go to hell? No. When it comes to just like anything, you mean like a different perspective?
Yeah,
of,
I mean,
like,
you can use like a specific example if you want to, but it could be anything. Like anytime someone's had a different perspective, and how did you either position yourself to, because we still want to protect ourselves in a way so our boundaries aren't crossed, but still have a little bit of that room to be receptive to what that person may be saying.
I think at first I would probably kind of just try to make you a believer, like whatever my concept was, like I would probably try to like convince you of that. Like, no, you need to just, if you just thought the way I did, then life wouldn't be so hard for you. But I quickly learned, like, nobody is gonna think like you. Plenty people can share ideas, and I think the more you do that, you just look for people that have common ideas, even if they don't have the exact same ideals. You can still have open conversations that help you learn and help you grow to, like, you know, not be stuck in your own way.
Where's Dad?
In the bathroom. Anywho, yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to explain. I went from trying to prove to everybody that like the ideas that I had were so good, you just had to hear it, to like, if you can't hear me whispering about it, then you don't really need to know.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's a
And it
good.
became
Yeah.
less of like, if I can just prove it to you, then I know you'll do this and you'll agree. It went from that to like, you can do as you wish, but from my experience, this is what that looks like to me. If you want to agree or disagree, that's totally on you. As my mother says, take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I'm not here to um, convince anybody of the life they're supposed to have, but I'm definitely here to help people achieve that.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like,
That's,
not only while you were talking, it just made me think of it. Do you feel like depending on the person, your approach is different when it comes to person? Like to hear you say, like, right? Let me give you an example. You have a sibling,
Mhm.
you know, and you're older. Okay, you're older. You've been through it. I think
Mhm.
it goes to parenting too, right? Like our parents have
Yeah,
said,
that's true
like,
too.
you're
Yeah.
gonna know, like you're da da da
Yeah.
da. It's like, no, what are you talking about? I know.
I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like
Right.
let me do what I'm doing. I got it.
But you have, again, let's say a younger sibling, which we all do. Let me be real here. Yeah, sibling financial situations, you've been through it, you've been in the
Yeah.
gutter, you've probably have dealt with harder situations, and you're trying to explain, right, your
Right.
perspective, your experience.
Hmm.
It's completely opposite, as we know, the younger generation, as I'm sure older generations agree too, like they're
Right.
not seeing it, they don't
Yeah,
understand
they're
it.
like, nah, I
Your
don't get it.
work ethic isn't
You
the
shouldn't even
same.
have done that. Should have been that way. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Right.
You definitely could have avoided that whole situation. It's like, oh, okay.
Right. And because I would agree, for me, that you know, I'm not here trying to convince you that my side is the right side, or you need to
Hmm.
think this way. But there is a part, not gonna lie, there is a part of me when it specifically comes to my siblings that sometimes I want to strangle. I'm like, listen to
Yeah, no,
me.
I get you. I get you 100%. I'll definitely try to go a little harder, depending. Like, if it's somebody I really feel like is close to me and I really love them, especially a sibling or like a close loved one. Like, if you don't hear me, what? You didn't hear me? Allow me to run that back. I'm just saying. And like, yeah, I'll really try to get it through your scope. But I mean, even with that, I feel like that has its limits too, because people will never learn if you're constantly there to save them.
Yeah, like
Like,
hand
That's
holding.
true. And sometimes they're not going to learn until they go through it. So even if it's the same exact way that you were
Yep.
trying to avoid them needing to go through it,
yeah, it's their
like
own process.
I literally just hear my parents when I'm talking to like Layla and Kingston. I'm like, if only I listened to my parents when I was this age, then my kid wouldn't be taking me through the same thing. But
Yeah.
it's like their perspective is like, no, like you don't know everything. Times have changed and
Yeah.
all this other things. But
Mhm.
as much as times can change, like there's usually some type of parallel that, you know, that wisdom doesn't kick in until, you know, if you're talking parents, until they become a parent, then they're like, oh, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. A lot
Um,
of times it's like that though, even before parenthood. It's like you don't know until you go through it. People can explain things to you a certain way 100 times. Like, that kind of guy or that kind of girl does these kinds of things. So you should avoid people like that. That's not what I heard. Let me go find out. Like, okay, stupid. Go ahead. And then when you find out, you come back and they're like, and what happened? And you're just sitting there like, yeah. Anywho. So, life it won't work any other way. That's
Yeah.
why, as much as perspective is so important, it's more important to hold on to the one of the self rather than the one of others, because now you're judging other people. You're trying to equate it to some other standard that you think they should be living to. And it might just be a stranger, or it might be because you work with them or because you love them. Now they're supposed to be this kind of person, not accept these kinds of things, like have these specific types of standards. And it's like, but they're still human, even if they are your sibling, even if they are your parent, even if you love them more than others. Like, so
and their
yeah,
own individuality may, even though they may learn the lesson in a similar way, maybe the outcome is something a little bit different
completely
just
different. It
because
could
of
be.
who they are as a person too. So
So you can try to warn somebody of something, and it might be the thing that makes them great. As much as it sucks, like sometimes when you lose hard, that's when you figure out how to win. Like, so it's a little messed up, but yeah, you can't have a victory without the loss. So
Absolutely.
you
I
gotta
think
let life run its course. Sometimes it's good to be able to
Yeah.
support people and like warn people. And when
Mhm.
you have that sense to be like, hey, I just want to let you know, I think you should speak on those feelings. But other than that, don't ride them, because you can end up disappointed or end up frustrated. Like, why won't you just listen to me? Like, yeah. So,
Yeah, it can put a strain on, whatever type of relationship it is.
yeah. Because now you're
it's
harboring
like,
something, and you're like, and they're like, okay, you good? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. You want to talk about it? Like I said, I was fine. I'm good. You're good, right? You know what you're doing.
right? You know it all, don't you?
Right.
being petty.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is legit. And just to circle back, like I think it is extremely important what you're saying, and what I'm gaining from all this is definitely to focus on your self perspective, but of course focus on your self perspective, but be open to hearing.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with receiving constructive criticism, and like it's not always easy to be open to that.
Right.
But it is important to be willing to let people have a conversation with you that would probably otherwise be very difficult to have. And when you have like that strong sense of like you really want to speak, I think that's when you should like try to be silent and just let people tell you where they're seeing you from right now, and then speak.
Yeah. And you can take what is of value, what holds true to you,
And leave the rest. You don't
and leave
need
the
what
rest.
yeah, you don't need
Like,
what
not
doesn't serve
every
you.
single thing that you tell me means I need to change all of these things,
Exactly.
because maybe they don't fully align with what my personal values are. But if I see value in,
What
I
you're
didn't
saying.
realize that's the energy I was giving off. That's
Yeah, I didn't realize I
the
had that kind of
impression.
attitude about it. I didn't mean to and it's sometimes, yeah, there's simple fixes that can help develop you so that you have a better ease in life and like multiple aspects. So you should take heed, especially from people who see you, but you shouldn't just be taking advice from like anyone, and you shouldn't be just speaking to anyone about your issues, because then it becomes a whole different type of game. So you definitely want to make sure that people you're having conversations with when you are going through difficult things are trustworthy and are there to listen and not to judge, so that way you can hopefully gain yet another perspective and get more of an objective experience about what you're going through, so that you can go back to your table and be like, okay, boom, this is what I can do. These are the things I can't change, and these are the things that I can. So and you just constantly keep building. I just hope that, as we have done so far, that we just keep building each other up, and keep on figuring out who we really want to be, because that's really all life is just figuring out who you want to be. So I hope we all continue to
I
do
think
that.
I'll challenge you on who you want to be. I think it's just who you are.
True.
Yeah. I feel we were born this way.
I feel
we just trying to get there.
Facts. You gotta remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and those life experiences help muddle,
Yeah. Kind
who
of
we are,
when
or
you go
the
through
part
certain
you are.
things.
No doubt. One thing that I can say is, one, I'm just going to, all teachers, principals, academics out there, I do think that in school, they should incorporate more debating classes, and just to help with real life.
More like healthy arguments type of deal,
Yes.
instead of just like scream to the top of your lungs. Yeah.
And to say this is that, personally, one thing that because I know some folks are just going to be like, Jasmine, you do X, Y, Z, and what are you talking about? Again, human. But at times, in some conversations, even to date, is if, again, I don't feel heard, or maybe I am heard and I know I'm being heard, but I don't like what the other person is saying, their perspective, their opinion on it. I get this like angry feeling, like really like rah.
You're like, all right, now I'm agitated. You keep going.
right. So working through that, but to be able to walk away from the conversation, I do think I'm doing a lot better to walk away from the conversation again on that. We're going to agree to disagree here, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, I see myself walking away from it of like, well, that's some bullshit. And it's like, girl, what are you talking about? So it's contradicting everything you were just saying about being open-minded, and it's like,
and receiving the opinions of others, like, and like I said, it's a grain of salt, and you always need to remember who the information or the criticism or the feedback is coming from. You should take that into account.
Agreed.
Especially if they may have a particular agenda.
You should recognize where they stand in their life also. So that's where it's like you shouldn't judge, and we should be able to have open conversations, because it could get to a point. It's like, well, who are you? What are you doing with your life that's so special that you can tell me how I'm supposed to be living mine? So that perspective, it goes a long way.
Like, I'm not judging, I'm just looking.
Yeah. I'm just looking, and I'm just gonna tell you what I see is what I'm saying is this.
Okay. It's giving.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if you ask me for my perspective, don't be mad.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, and that's important too. I feel like for anyone, it's better to give your opinion where it's asked than just to where you might have thought it was needed.
Yes.
So if somebody's not asking you about a certain subject, then you probably shouldn't really be bringing that subject up.
Yeah.
That is gold right there.
For real. I think the flip side of that too is like, be careful what you're asking for too. Like, definitely, I agree. Don't give advice unless you're asked, and I try to do that as much as possible, because maybe you just needed a vent. Maybe you just needed to get something off your chest, and that should be that type of space if that's what you wanted. But I ran into something like work-wise where I said, oh, I'm open to feedback and I would love it. And then I was almost smacked across the face with some feedback I wasn't expecting. So I was like, dang, like my feelings were hurt. But, you know, if you're going to ask for it, you know, make sure you are prepared for whatever may come, because it may not all be, you know, rainbows and butterflies, what that person has to say.
Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I have a sibling who does plenty of the pure, authentic
is he still on?
moments of just letting you know exactly what it is and why. But anywho,
right, we know what that is.
Yeah. But it's good to have people like that, because honestly, sometimes life does get sugar coated. You start coding things yourself because you find good things in your life that you don't want to change, so you try to cling to that, thinking that means that good thing will stay. But the only way more good will come is if you're willing to let the good go too, so that new good can keep coming. Because if you can hold on to the bad, that doesn't help you either. But you have to be able to be willing to let go of it all, so that you can keep on running into the new, whether that's positive or negative, but you have to be willing to let go. And that has been the hardest concept and perspective for me, of seeing my life and being like, even though those parts that made my heart feel fuzzy and warm, like some of the best memories I've ever had, like to understand that the only way I'll continue to receive the best is to let that go too. Yeah,
amazing perspective.
Eye-opening.
Dang, I love that. Be willing to let it all go for the betterment of your future self.
And I think what people are banging up is that part of letting go. We're not saying forget, right? Let go. So, like you said, like I think you worded it perfectly, to welcome in.
Yeah. To welcome in the new.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how can you do that if you're so stuck on like, but this was so good. Like if I could just keep it good, you'll get so stuck on that you'll miss the other things. Will be like, hey girl, oh hi, bye girl. Like because you're just so caught up in your, like a cat with a ball. Like you just can't escape, can't get away.
That stuff can end up turning stagnant. Like, it was great for a while, but now you're just comfortable.
Then it gets
you're not necessarily happy, you're just comfortable. This is where you're familiar with. Yeah. And now you're not actually growing anymore, which
I was gonna say, because like comfort means there's no growth happening. So I mean, as long as you're long as you're comfortable with being comfortable, then go ahead and stay there. But yeah, for me so far at least, I'm not even close to where I intend to be when I get to my future self. And I know that having the right perspective is what's going to help me get there.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And like Nasri said, everything is temporary. We have to
Right.
remember that and be ready for whatever next temporary item is on the plate.
No doubt.
Yeah, things come and go. People's feelings change like all the time. Jobs will let your ass go. Like, yeah, well, good luck to you in all your future endeavors. If you need us as a reference, just let us know.
Okay.
Send us an email. Like, oh, all right.
I'm like, shoot, we talk about people. We don't talk about that enough. That is a huge heartbreak.
It
And
is.
that would
It sucks. To walk into my last check, like you guys couldn't have hit me up yesterday to tell me that I was going to be coming back to get my last check. No, you're just going to sit me down during my lunch period, a little lunch break, to tell me we really appreciate everything you've done for us, but unfortunately, okay.
For real.
That's an emotional thing to go through when you're caught off guard with that. Like if you know you're gonna get fired because you're doing things to be,
Mm-hmm.
like you're gonna get your ass terminated, but to feel like you're good at what you do and sheets to the wind type of deal, like you're just vibing with it, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, can we sit down with you for a minute? And you're like, what? That sucks.
Like, you tired or something? Sit down.
Yeah, what's the matter? You need a break? My last shift. Okay, I understand.
Mm-hmm. For real. Yeah, man. Well, perspective, opinions, outlooks, outcomes. It all is relevant, I'd say, with every single situation in your life. As mentioned, it could be work, relationships,
personal decisions.
No doubt. In all of it, I think everyone can guess at this point of what does it revolve around? What is the primary? It's always going to be you. It's going to root back to you.
You and your self-love.
Thank you.
Great.
Whoa. Oh man. Any closing thoughts, suggestions, tips, best practices? We just shared a bunch out here.
I don't know. Always take time for yourself, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly. Meditation definitely goes a long way, even if you only have 10 or 15 minutes a day. If you don't, then don't punish yourself for the things you can't do. Just set yourself up for the things you can. One thing that one of my older siblings mentioned to me recently was to write down 6 things that you want to work on, or 6 things that you're already grateful for, and then do at least 3 of them.
I heard a version of that too. It's two different versions, but mine said 3 things.
Okay.
Like, if you're just starting basic,
Yeah.
sometimes 6 might
Yeah,
be hard.
he said write down
given day.
6 things
3
that you're
grateful
grateful for and
things.
do 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 things you're grateful for, and then this other from the Mel Robbins podcast, they did 3 things that you would like to accomplish, like over that day or whatever time period you set,
Right.
and then focus on like what would be your first task
Get those to
contribute to the thing. So
I think that's a really good idea to help you stay on board with yourself. Anything that helps you. Working out honestly does help all around. It really is a mental, physical, and spiritual thing when you really dedicate to staying healthy. Do you have to go to the gym every day? Absolutely not. There's a lot of ways that you can stay healthy in the body and in the mind, and it automatically helps with like everything else that you're trying to accomplish. So I would also suggest working out, getting that heart rate.
I'm working on that part.
Yeah, I know, right? It's hard. It's hard to stay committed to something like that, but at the same time, it's like, who better to be committed to than yourself? So I just feel like I've been learning that the most in the last like 2 years, especially to like really make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're showing people how it's done. So that way you can't make no mistakes, sir. You knew what you were signing up for. You seen it. You saw the set. You saw what it looked like before you got here, and it's not going to change because you showed up. So set your goals high for yourself and hold on to them and attain those, so that way everybody's got to meet you there.
Yeah.
They can't meet you there, they ain't supposed to come.
Okay.
This is
We're gonna
our y'all.
leave
I'm
it
sorry, this is a
at
private jet.
that.
You can't get on here like that. We had very high vibrations to get here for a long time.
Okay, that's
you
what
can't just jump
know.
on board.
No
That's
doubt.
the mic drop moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got today.
we super appreciate you for even coming with this topic.
Yes.
I mean, of course there can
no
be a
doubt.
million different ways we could have went with this, but we also appreciate you coming on live to even express
yes.
furthermore your perspective on things.
Thank you for letting me tap in with you guys today. I really appreciate that.
Anytime.
You already know, cuz.
For our replay crew, please hit us in the chat, letting us know you are on the replay crew.
Likes, comments, shares. Get that.
That's what we know. Okay, we're out here. Be on the lookout for next month. We're going to switch it up a little bit as far as the way that we communicate, all the good stuff. But as just very similar to Bree, she got our contact. If you don't, that's fine. You can shoot us a DM.
Hit
but
that line.
you know, this is what we're here for. We want this interaction to be with all of you. If there's a topic you're interested on us touching, we welcome you to share it with us, as well as jump on live with us. Even if you do not have the topic and it comes to our live and you were like, you know what? I've seen that and I want to tap into it. Hit us with a little request. I think we'll be able to see it and we will pop on with you. So, as always, keep focusing on you, how you can become a better version of yourself, building your support system. And I'm gonna get into this wine. So until next
time. I'm gonna take a shot too, girl. Right before the little nightcap.
I got my water. But yes, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Like Bree said, like, share, subscribe so you're not missing any of this good stuff or being part of the conversation. We appreciate you. Until next time, it's been real.
Peace and hair grease.